Friday, 5th of July, 2013. Remonders Stadium, Sharks, Tigers, 34th minute, second tackle. Chris Heiningston with a quick play the ball, 10 metres his own side of halfway, centre field, allows Isaac de Gois to feed a short ball onto something resembling a runaway freight train. This train, of course, is former Tiger Andrew Fifita. Fifita breezes untouched past a jogging Aaron Woods at marker and leaves three other defenders looking stationary. Over the 30, a big left foot step leaves a young fullback named James Tedesco flailing. Three Tigers converge, none go close. The freight train scores, ending with a lawnmower celebration that reacquaints the Western Suburbs franchise with their iconic sponsor from the 1970s and 80s, the Victor lawnmower. Welcome to another episode of Classic Cronulla Chronicles. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the ET Stand, the Cronulla Sharks fan podcast, where we let our talking do the football. We'd be in the studio tonight for another episode of Classic Cronulla Chronicles is Scotty Latino. Lats, welcome back. I think last time, I've spoken many times with you now about random games, but we did cover the Tigers game at Leichhardt. Yep. We remember how that went in 2008, and then we remember how that went in 2024. This year, this was around the 19 of the 2024 season. We're playing the Tigers at home. We'll go back to 2013, round 17 clash against the Tigers at home. What are your thoughts on 2013?
Yeah, mate, surprising. I thought it was a pretty good season considering where we finished on the ladder. I know we went through plenty of injuries that year. I think the game leading into this, I think we were 4 fullbacks in as many games. It was a bit of a mess, but Flano threw something together and come up trumps.
Yeah, we see there'll be a young player in jersey 18 playing fullback for us. That's pretty topical. But yeah, we'll go into the form guide, I suppose, leading into it. And we were 4th, but we're a bit up and down. 2 buys in there. So origin period, as we know and love. So we'd lost to the Cowboys in Townsville 24-4, had a bye, beat the Eels. That was a game where I think we were down by 8 at one stage, down 14-6. Approaching halftime and exploded out the blocks in the second half to run away with it. And the Eels were pretty poor that year. Got pumped by Melbourne in Melbourne. I was at that one, and we had a bye. So we had 1 win, 2 losses, 2 byes going into it. While the Tigers, there was talk they'd had 4 wins from the last 5 matches. In the 5 matches leading into it, they had immediately the week before, they beat Melbourne 22-4, beat the Raiders 17-12, lost to the Broncos 32-12, beat the Panthers 20-18 and had a bye. So a few asterisks there, being up against sides with a lot of players involved in Origin. But 2013, up and down season, but still sitting top 4. So probably comparable to this one in some ways. Do you remember any of those games?
I remember the 2 games before the byes thinking this bye can't come around soon enough. Yeah. And then I was surprised at that Parramatta one. I thought we'd get trumped there. And I know Chris Kelly would have been happy with that one, with all his in-laws, or majority of his in-laws being Parramatta supporters. But
yes.
Yeah, I remember not knowing what to feel like getting that win against Para and going down to the Cowboys in the Storm. But yeah, was that actually when Michael Gordon injured his knee in the city country training?
I believe so. Yeah, it was in and around that period.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
we had a few out. I remember that, but
Gordon's
it is very similar to this year, though, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it was Gordon's first season for us. He got injured. Yeah, and you're right. Basically, we're almost identical positions on the ladder this week in 2024 as we were in 2013. Yet you'll see the lineups, and I'd say that the Tigers lineup in 2013 was a lot stronger than it is now, but they've still got some handy players. I'll have a quick look at the lineups there. So number for the Cronulla Sharks, we've got number 18, Stuart Mills as the fullback. A late inclusion. The wingers, number 2, Sasai Feki, number 20, Nathan Stapleton. The halves, a rare start at centre for us. Luke Lewis, number 3, and number 4, John O'Wright. That was the centres. The halves, Todd Carney, Jeff Robson. The front row, number 16, Bryce Gibbs, John Morris, and Sam Tagatese. And the back row of number 15, Jason Bakuya, Wade Graham, the captain, and Chris Heiningston at lock. Whilst on the bench, we have number 8, Andrew Fifita, dropping back to the bench, Anthony Tupou in jersey 11, Isaac de Gois and Tyrone Peachy, also a late inclusion. The coach, Shane Flanagan. Well, for the Tigers, a bit of a who's who of players have gone on to bigger, better things, not for the club. Number 1, James Tedesco, the fullback. The wingers, David Nofaluma and Tim Simona. Who was he? He was the gambling guy, wasn't he?
I think he a few issues with jerseys that he meant to pass on to charity and didn't.
Yes.
And yeah, It turned out to be a bit of a
Yes.
mess for him, but he was a good player. I
Yeah.
used to love watching him play. I remember there was talks at one point of him coming to us, and I
Mm.
was really excited, but glad it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, we bags a few here, but the centres, number 3, future Shark, Blake Ashford, and number 4, Chris Lawrence. The halves, Benji Marshall and Curtis Sirinen, bizarrely at halfback. The front row of Aaron Woods, another future Shark. Robbie Farah, the hooker and captain, and Adam Blair. And the back row of Lehman Fulton, Bodine Thompson, who was also in the last week's match that we covered against the Titans, I believe, and Suaso Su as the lock. Whilst the bench, Ava Senamanafungai, who is also a future Shark, Jack Buchanan, Ben Murdoch-Masilla, and some guy in jersey 17 called Braith Anasta. And the coach was Mick Potter. So we had a chat about Tim Simona in there, but any other thoughts on that Tigers side?
Oh, mate, they're pretty strong side. Look at it,
Yeah.
Tedesco. Nofaluma was just coming into it. Had the turnstile in Blake Ashford. Chris Lawrence was always strong. Sirinen at half's interesting.
Yeah.
Robbie Farah. Yeah, that's a strong side, as you said, stronger than what will be fielding against us this week.
Yeah.
It's a pretty strong side. You got an Astra on the bench there, and Murdoch, some big guns in there. Big team.
Yeah. So Tedesco, right at the very start of his career, this was his first fullish season. Round 1 2012, he was highly wrapped at Leichhardt. We were playing against the Tigers, and he did his ACL midway through the first half, and then basically gone for the season, came back and was having a bit of a rookie season in 2013. Whilst, yes, obviously still got Benji Marshall there, still got Robbie Farah. Benji hadn't left to rugby and then the Dragons yet by this stage. Adam Blair was a big money recruit as well, who was copping a bit of stick for his lack of performance at prop. But they had a really big bench there. I suppose not including an Astor there, who would come on as either lock or halves coverage. Whilst for ours, Stapleton was always good to see on the wing there in jersey 20. Stuart Mills, I believe it was his only game at fullback for us there, which there's good reason why that was the only game at fullback for him. But anyway, we'll see how things go. Bryce Gibbs into the starting lineup, another former Tiger. We've got obviously Chris Heinington in his first year for the Sharks, having signed, came across 2013. But yeah, Bo Ryan, another former Tiger, he was out. You're right, with Michael Gordon being out, and Fifita as well on the bench. So we had quite a few ex-Tigers there.
Lewis to centre was an interesting one, and I remember Bryce Gibbs. I remember us not thinking a great deal about, because we got him and Fifita in
Correct,
sort of over to cover Snowden and Douglas, I believe, wasn't it? I think
yes,
at the time.
You're right. Yeah,
Fifita was the target. Bryce Gibbs, I believe, was the you got to take him too sort of player in the deal, and he turned out putting in for us big time. Like he was immense for us.
Yeah,
he was consistent and hard running, and he made us plenty of meters. And then Fifita, he was just outstanding.
Yeah, well, Fifita, early days of his career, but you're right, Bryce Gibbs came across with some injury concerns and fitness concerns coming in, and the fact that he hadn't, props aren't there to score tries, although Andrew Fifita's form would definitely, I suppose, discourage that side of the argument, but had famously not scored since the 05 grand final. And he came to us really put in. He did end up, I think, basically medically retiring. I think it was 2014 when he departed, but provided a lot for us. You're right, we did lose, was it midway through the 2011 season, Snowden and Douglas, and it was the 2012 season when we signed Fifita. Gibbs being the target, Fifita being the other one, because the Tigers had basically, I suppose, mishandled their salary cap. And that's what resulted in us getting Bo Ryan and Chris Heinington the following season as well, in that they were basically told, I think Bo Ryan's in the Dan and Kemp podcast talks about it, where he basically was brought in and said, look, we don't have money for you and you're being pushed out of the club, and so's Chris Heinington, and you're both going to the Sharks. And he's like, sorry, what? We're just at training. What do you mean? So, and that was in the off season from between 2012 and 2013 seasons. But looking at it, I'm just having a quick look at Lewis's career with regards to positions started for the Sharks, and it wasn't many in the centres for us. Looking at it, quickly whip it up now, but the last time he played starting centre for an NRL side was the Panthers in 2007, and then in this match in 2013. So it was a rarity. And as we'll see soon, he profits from a 4-pointer from it. But yeah, interesting choice. But showed the amount of injuries we'd had that year in those key positions. And looking at it too, we had so Stuart Mills came in. Out was Matthew Wright, who was another replacement fullback for Michael Gordon. So Wright was injured. Ben Pomeroy in the centres was also injured, and Ben Ross in the front row was also injured. Hence the late changes. But having said that, you got Fifita in jersey 8 dropping back to the bench. So maybe a tactical switch there by Flanagan. But yeah, it was an interesting period, 2013. A lot of change. Had the Todd Carney era as well, in the second year of that. And things were looking up after the horror that was 09 to 2011. So might crack into the actual match.
Shake that off.
Yeah, it's definitely worth shaking off the 09 stink. So anyway, first try. So just as they ran out, you'll see in the coverage, which we'll put in the notes there. There are highlights and a full match replay on the NRL website as well. So thank you to the NRL for that. Wade Graham with his 100th match, and the Sharks this week in 2013 had been hit with a $150,000 fine for a salary cap breach. So obviously not a big indiscretion. We're not talking the same realm as what we had at the start of the 2019 season, or what teams like Melbourne or the Bulldogs, or lesser extent Parramatta and the Warriors have faced. But still a slap on the wrist. But the party boy, the captain, the Mr. 100 gamer, Wade Graham scores a try in the 8th minute after we dragged them into touch, actually, just prior to that. So we'll have a look at that try, and we'll chat about that in a sec. So I'll just add this one to the stage. And you'll see here that, Carney, sorry, it's a bit scratchy there with a little grubber in. Nice little bounce for Graham running through. The fullback, unfortunately, so Tedesco lost his footing. Unfortunately for him, and that's what ended it. But yeah, we lost a bit of the.
Did well to pluck that in from the upper left shoulder there, didn't he? And also whilst he's cutting in field to step sort of around Tedesco, he's done well there.
He did very well. Yeah, especially as we're showing off those best and less jerseys as well without a main sponsor. But so it was a good start for a milestone match. I don't know the exact stats as to how many milestone matches we've won or lost, but it appears that this one was an anomaly in that we won it. Spoiler alert. So anyway, that was a good start. Shortly afterwards, Nathan Stapleton, who we send our best wishes to, went and did this. So it was Todd Carney. So we add this one to the stage. Todd Carney sticks his leg out and blocks, I think it was a Robbie Farah kick, streaks away. Tedesco coming across, and we appear to have lost the coverage again there. So to speak to our IT guru, David Balderman, as to what he's done with these videos.
We're back on.
But step from Carney and nice little
spin and pass.
Yeah, spin and pass onto Stapleton. He's quick.
Fast, wasn't he?
Yeah, beat the covering defender for speed, and the other 3 guys on the inside didn't look like getting him. So Stapleton ran the best part. Well, I think Ray Warren in his commentary there says 85 metres to be exact is the coverage of that match, or that try. Sorry, so cover 85 metres to score, and then shortly after that, we had Luke Lewis with the all-important 3rd try. So Sharks well and truly on top. Tigers weren't offering much at all. Phil Gould in the coverage was talking about how they were very sideways, and their forward pack, which we talked about talking about the lineups pre-game section, they were being steamrolled by us. So I didn't even get a chance to ask, were you at this match, or do you remember this one at all, or just the highlights?
No, I wasn't at this game. I think I was working late in the afternoon or something and couldn't get there, but did watch it on TV, and so it was a good one to win.
Yeah, so adding to his, aura, or his competence anyway, Todd Carney with a huge 40-20, which we'll try and get some footage of here.
His boot was on point that night, wasn't it?
Massive, massive kick on the 3rd tackle, catches obviously the winger out of position, which puts us straight onto the attack. And we'll scroll down and cover the Lewis try, which is just a nice little crossfield kick. So we go there, and Lewis, just as he did plenty of times as a second row for us in especially 2016, just taking that over the top of your mate Ashford.
The fingertips too.
Yeah, fingertips just reams it in there, and scores. Skill. So which was it was good to see. He scored plenty of tries like that as a second row. That one was a bit wider. The kicks that Maloney and Townsend would put in would be closer to the post later in his career. But
Yep.
the all-important 34th minute coming up now, which hopefully with the video works nicely for us here, was big Andy Fifita just charging onto it like I don't think I've seen a Sharks prop score a try like this before
Best
or
you'll
since.
see.
Just it didn't get no one got a hand on him,
No.
and then he got
Knee
fends off
heavily strapped,
Nofaluma.
and he's
Yeah,
throwing footwork like that. Unbelievable.
yeah. I'll just try and redo that again too. So here he is. Yeah, does that. Unfortunately, the video is freezing there just to the point where I don't know if they'd tried July back then, but scores and then does the lawnmower. But yeah, right on that observation of the knee being heavily strapped. Yeah, unfortunately, the video's cut out there, so you don't see the try celebration, a little bit of it there. But yeah, kind of
he's starting
loves
it. I can see him. There he is.
Starts the mower, walks away. There's Isaac Degois up, giving him the congratulations, and the Sharks are up 24 points to 0 at halftime.
He was quite lean there, wasn't he, Fifita? He's quite lean.
And having heard him interviewed on I think it was the Den and Kemp podcast, he talked about how him and his brother, obviously identical twin David, were both distance runners in their youth, and I think he was a scrawny centre, he said initially, and then obviously filled out from there. So, and both of them did, but he had good cardio. And there was talk before one of the seasons, I think it might have been the 2015 season, where he won he was the fastest in the club at a certain time trial. I'm not sure if that was the 2.5 or the 5 kilometre time trial they do, but that showed how fit he was. And he used to go through enormous meters. Now, this like 2024 season, we're talking about props. You talk about the Royce Hunts and the Tapuas and obviously Toby Rudolph struggling to get through big minutes, where Fifita used to regularly do 50, 60, 70 minutes, and was a huge frame. You're right, he was a bit leaner there, impact. But yeah, so that was second season we had him, and probably by far the longest distance he covered in a try. But there's also later this season in 2013 as well, where he beats quite a few Dragons, notably faster players than him, to score that last minute try off that grubber. So has some speed there. As we move into the second half, where I don't have much coverage on this, and that's okay, because the Tigers suddenly start to put a bit of a comeback on. James Tedesco scoring, Bodine Thompson scoring as well. It was back to 24-10. Had a bit of a sniff, and then there was a try where a kick went through, I believe, and Stewie Mills, all he needed to do was basically fall on it, and he slipped over, and it was scooped up by Tim Simone to bring it back to 24-16 in just the 53rd minute, and Shark Park was silent. I remember I was there, and we were, are we about to give away a 24-point lead here? Is this going to be Melbourne round 1, 2003 all over again? But then Bakuya stemmed the tide in the 60th minute with a tidy try, which I think came off the back of a missed kick for touch by Benji Marshall. And then we went back downfield and thankfully made them pay. So bringing this up here now, nice little cutout pass by, I believe it was Carney, but I'll just go back and see these videos. Sorry, they're not. Carney. Yeah, face ball across Fifita, gets it to Bakuya. He isolates their number 7 there. So
how good was Bakuya? I loved Bakuya as a player. It's one of my
solid.
favorite second row players.
So solid, and that I'll bring back the slides again. I think Bakuya's breakout season was 2012. Before he. So he came in, he kind of reminded me a bit of Nickera, actually, the way he came in, the lines that he ran, the tries he was scoring, the hits he was putting on back when shoulder charges were legal. So he was a big hitter. And then he went to the Warriors for 2014 and 2015, and then came back to us for 2016, which was good to see. So he kind of went off the boil.
He wasn't a huge frame. He wasn't a huge frame, but he was so strong.
Yeah.
And that's, I heard that about his training game. He was really strong in training, really put in. And, he just had his wrestling on point, apparently, Bakuya.
Yeah, which he was noted for doing it, and really underrated. Like the role that he played off the bench in 2016 and 17 was just enormous. Like we didn't lose anything at all with him coming in and providing that. So he kind of provided a bit of coverage, maybe giving Gallen a break actually at 13. So he was quite wide there early on in his career. In 2012, he was a starting second rower for us for a while, but. Anyway, that got us back to 30-16. Then we had a bit of a late scare again with a second Tim Simona try to bring it back to 30-22. And then the Tigers butchered a try disallowed that would have brought it back to 30 points to 28. There was an obstruction there. And then Fifita shortly after that put on a try-saving tackle and then went back down the other end and sealed it. So we'll just have a look at this one. Hopefully this one works all right for us. So you can see here, gives it to their right winger, which I think is Noah Faluma. Here we are. And Fifita just charging across, just lassos him over the sideline. And then down the other end of the field with 4 minutes to go, just, dare I say it, maybe not 2016-esque, but one off the ruck, just hits and spins, scores under the post.
You're not stopping him from there.
No, gosh, no. And I suppose it was a quick play of the ball that made it happen. So that sealed it. Probably a win that should have been a bit more comfortable, but we still got there in the end, 36 points to 22. And Tigers, who are a bit of a bogey side against us, that was only, I don't know the exact number of wins. I'll bring it up in a sec, but an early win against them. We've had good running of late if you don't talk about the earlier game in 2024. So first talking point, Luke Lewis. We're talking about him being in the centres here. 2013 was his first year with the Sharks. So do you have any memories of, I suppose, initial memories of him in our colours?
I remember being so stoked when we signed him for what he was going to bring to us, and he didn't disappoint. He was, he never looked out of place in the Sharks team. He never had to fit in. He's just straight in and looked like one of us from the get-go and put in from week to week. He had a massive workload and he just always got through it.
Yeah, absolutely. He just, it was, I suppose he signed him. He'd gone past he's no longer that the scrawny winger / centre. He'd moved into 5'8", then a lock for Penrith. And we had Paul Gallen at lock, obviously. So it's like, where are we going to fit him? He's not going to play halves for us. But fit in like he'd been there his entire career at second row with us, with him and Wade, him on the, let's say he was on the right, Wade was on the left. Just so good. His first season with us was a bit injury affected. But he and then unfortunately the end of the 2013 season, he'd do his shoulder really bad in the advertising hoarding, scoring a try in the World Cup. And then that would ruin most of his 2014 season. So we'd have to wait until 2015 until we saw that. And then just before, or at end of his Penrith career too, he had that diagnosis of cancer, thyroid cancer as well, which I think was kind of similar to the Adam Ritson story, where it was picked up indirectly through another assessment being done. I think a scan, and them going, oh, okay, we better have a look at this. Thankfully, it was a touch wood by those standards, fairly easy treatment, but that was before he even signed for us. The fact that Penrith let him go, I still find that flabbergasting. Like I can understand losing Wade. We offered more, we could fit him in, but Luke Lewis, they showed him the door and he was their captain. Like that was under the Phil Gould rebuilding era.
What you get out of him, you don't let players like that go. He could run out for us now. Have you seen him now currently? He is massive. He's an absolute weapon. He was in, I think he was presenting one of the Penrith players with a jersey in that game against us that we just lost recently, 42-0 against the Panthers. And I thought, who's this new bloke who Penrith has signed? He's massive.
He is huge. Bigger than he's ever been.
I think he's got a gym now. I think he's got a gym, his own fitness business, and wow, huge.
He's just supreme athlete. He's a very ripped. Well, I'd say actually, would you be able to say jacked without saying that he's? I don't believe he's doing any of that stuff, but he's enormous, and he could run out there right now. I know what his cardio is like, but if his cardio is half decent, he's got it sorted. He could probably do a better job at prop than
few blokes to shame.
Some of the options that we've got. But looking at that, so we had beaten the Tigers earlier in 2013, 30 points to 6 at the Sydney Football Stadium on a rainy Friday night. But prior to that, obviously, we had the pretty ordinary record against them. So it was good to beat the bogey team, and Luke Lewis went a fair way to that. Playing the only game, I don't recall him being named at centre. So when I was going through the team list for this one and saw him in the famous jersey 3, I was like, wow, you can add him to the list of E.T., Steve Rogers, Ben Pomeroy, Luke Lewis. So, so of those great number 3s that we've had, Nigel Vungana and the like. So moving on, Blakeation.
No, definitely not.
Who else? Anyway, I could name a few. Andrew Emilio, but anyway, we've digressed. But Stuart Mills is our next talking point. So he was named at fullback I believe that was the first and only time he played for us at fullback as a late inclusion, as you alluded to in the lead up to this one. We had just injury after injury to our fullbacks. I think Nathan Gardner was still in the club. He wasn't available. Obviously, Michael Gordon was our first choice. He was injured. Matthew Wright was injured. So it was
Bo Ryan
difficult.
had played a couple of weeks prior.
Bo Ryan had covered fullback. And I do remember Bo Ryan having a really good game for the Tigers at fullback, I think in 2012, where he covered late. And I think he said that he had covered that in his juniors as well, where he was kind of seen as only exclusively a winger, but he was very, I suppose, small for the modern day, but was an out and out footballer when it came to skills wise. But looking at Stewie Mills, I don't think he played too many more games for us after this one, unfortunately, if at all. Came into the club with enormous raps. He did play 2 more matches. He played in a 19 points to 18 win over Brisbane. In Brisbane, a few weeks later, we're looking at the side. He played, in the centres in Jersey 3, and then in a 40 points to 0 loss to the Roosters at the Sydney Football Stadium, where he also played in the centres. So looking at him, came in with huge raps. And I remember his debut. I think everyone remembers his debut in 2011, but just cruelled by injury. Looking at before I get your views on him, unfortunately for us, he played only 16 matches and only scored 6 tries with a win percentage of 43.75. So 7 wins, 9 losses. He went to the Broncos for a bit after that, didn't crack first grade. Went and played a bit for, was it Redcliffe in the Queensland Cup in 2014, Mount Pritchard in the VB New South Wales Cup. And I think he was playing down the coast, and I think he picked up a trade as well. So the poor bugger,
good on.
What might have been. He's still only 32. He could still be playing. So
he had so much potential, didn't he?
Yeah.
We all thought he was going to be this fast young gun that was going to be a try scoring machine, and unfortunately, I think he had 3 ACL injuries by the time he was 25 or something like that. That's crazy to think those sort of injuries, and still managed to recover and play football for each one of those. But unfortunately, that just his body let him down, and he didn't see the heights that we thought he was going to see.
Yeah, and the reason why I've chosen him in this one too was, unfortunately, he had, and I feel for the guy, it was an absolute shocker. Like we were talking about that, and I don't know if it's the fact that he hadn't played much fullback or whether he was injured. Obviously, he had a very injury-affected career, but he had so much promise. He came in, it was 2011 when he made his debut against the Roosters. He didn't score a try, but he had a huge break. I think Phil Gould in the coverage said this is the best debut I've seen of a player, and obviously he's covered like Brad, or been involved in Brad Fittler's debut and the like. So looking at
I remember that comment from Gould actually.
Yeah, and
everyone was quite excited by the prospect of what we had on our hands here.
Yeah, the next ET, we won that match 18 points to 4. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. He did score on debut, and it was a try from close range. He almost scored a long range try where he was cut down just short and would have been a second. So 2 tries on debut essentially he would have got, which would have been unbelievable. And then things petered out from there. Like he played, that was round 10, round 11, round 12. And then he had another injury, didn't come back until round 25 of that season. And then looking at the following year, he only played 6 matches. And it was round 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9. And then a season-ending injury in a loss to Souths in 2012. And then only the 4 matches in 2013. And then that was it. So really cruel to feel for the guy, because he was just an absolute gun. That first game that he played showed his potential, and he scored like a handful of tries for the amount of matches he played. So real shame. And I think I remember that night, I went to the Kingwan afterwards, and I was trying to remember who was actually there, but maybe it was Franco. I was talking, we were going, we didn't know it'd be we didn't know it'd be career ending, but we're like, gee, it was disappointing to see Stewie play how he played tonight, because as you said, he was struggling under the high ball, had a couple of drops, a few missed tackles, that where he slipped over and conceded a try. I was like, that's not ideal. Be good to see him back in the centres, but it just wasn't to be. Poor bugger. So we wish him all the best. And still 32, he could still be playing, but what might have been. Looking at, and obviously go from that, I suppose, unfortunate note to Fifita. This is where he's really coming of age. We knew what we'd signed. We saw a glimpse of it in 2012 and more glimpses of it in 2013, but this was the game that really put him on the map. And it was like, wow, who is this guy? And we picked him up for the Tigers as the kind of bargain basement add-on. Hey, buy 3, get one free kind of deal. And
not a bad default sort of signing, is it?
Exactly. And then
we don't have Fifi, we don't have a premiership.
Absolutely. And I've said it many times now, but like it was only a matter of months after this in early 2014 when he signed for the Bulldogs, and then that all went to poo, thankfully, because they'd stuffed the back end contract, and he went out. Or his manager, I think, had recommended him just go, because the Bulldogs weren't going to red egg on the deal, so he went to the media and said he wanted to go play rugby union.
Yeah,
and they at the same time he'd already teed up to remain at the Sharks, and gosh, that's what might have been.
I think he signed. I think with the Dogs he had an $850,000 contract signed, and after the debacle there, where he came out and said I'd move for the money to rugby, we got him for 600,000 or something.
Yeah,
don't quote me on that, but I think it was around that sort of money, and he delivered. Like he was so good. I was so bummed when he was going to the Doggies, and
I know. Well, that was
to end up with him by default for a second time was brilliant.
Yeah, so that started 2014 was just cataclysmic, and then when that was announced too, I was like, like obviously we didn't. It hurts even more now that we know what might have been. But then you hear how I suppose how it went down. I think it was and then Bloke in the Bar again, Bloke in the Bar interview with Denny Camp talking about how he wanted to stay at the Sharks, but the Sharks couldn't offer him the money. The Bulldogs were offering him crazy money. They went through the details, and then after he'd signed, they realised I think he was only going to be on like 100K for the first 2 years, and he's gone. Sorry, what? It's like, you're back ended, and there was third party deals that fell over and all this stuff, and he's like, this is a bit fishy, and he was a bit annoyed at his manager, and admittedly he should have asked more questions, but he was just, I suppose, looking at it going like over 4 or 5 years, whatever it was significantly more with the Bulldogs than what the Sharks could pay, because obviously the Sharks had a lot of their money tied up with Todd Carney. And this is in the Des Hasler days where they were, let's say, mismanaging and back ending and all the rest, and then the Bulldogs end up in the hole after 2012, 2014 grand finals to basically being nowhere until 10 years later. So thankfully some sanity prevailed there, but gosh, thank goodness for that. So anyway, those two tries he scored there. Actually, I'll have a look at his total number of tries that year, because I think he got a number.
He scored. He was our top try scorer that year.
There you go. Look at you. Yeah, look at
9 tries.
9 tries. Awesome. So
when you got a prop scoring, being your top try scorer, you're doing well.
That's your benchmark or your bellwether. I remember 2003, and I think Phil Bailey was our top scorer with 8, and we didn't have Nigel Vungana in the team yet. But when you got a second rower who's playing centre, scoring 8 tries, and he's your top try scorer, but Fifita earned all. Not to say that wingers don't earn their tries when they catch the ball and fall over, but Fifita scored.
He worked hard for them.
Legitimately worked hard for all 9 of them, and it was probably maybe an indicator with how many injuries we had in the, I suppose, the revolving door of a back line that we had. But anyway, he scored the.
Not to mention how many he saved.
How many he saved, and even for his career, but him and Gallen, how many tries they scored over their career was quite astonishing for the size of the men that they were. But you're right, the tries that he actually stopped. I think he copped a fair bit of stick early on in his career with his lack of, I suppose, perceived lack of lateral movement in defence, but that showed there, that try, and some other plays too. Obviously, the game 1 of the 2017 State of Origin series, where he was literally unstoppable, showed his agility and his just the supreme athlete that he was. Looking at the total number of tries he scored for us was obviously the one that counted, but for the Sharks, let's bring the stats up now. He scored a total of, it was 32. So 32 tries, wow. So he got 9 in 1 year, but that's still a lot for a prop. He scored 8 tries in 39 matches for the Tigers. So a good return there, 40 tries in total for his 251 games. So obviously an injury affected the last few seasons, but really.
For a big guy, they are great numbers.
Oh, they are, and the longevity he had in his career, and looking at it, that was during a period where he was playing a lot of football. So he had a bit of an injury-affected 2014. 2013, he played 25 matches. 2014, he played 12. 2015, 18. Then 2016, it was 25. 2017, 23. 2018, 26. 2019, 21. And then it was 2020, he played 12. 2021 he
Is that
played
when he hurt
6.
his throat?
Yes, 2021 was when he hurt his throat. He'd been injured or in and out of the side through injury. I think his knee was troublesome, and then he hurt his throat in that game at Redcliffe against Newcastle. Which, gosh, that story in itself is harrowing. The fact that he
Scary.
could well have died and may well should have died. He tells that on the Denon and Kemp podcast. So go have a listen to that. He goes in great details to how that all went down and how serious it actually was. And then played 22 matches in his final season for us in 2022 and finished his career with one try that year against Souths. That was very grand final-esque. So, yeah, awesome. Great stuff for Fifita.
Legend.
Now, I've got the 2013 Tigers as a talking point. We chatted a fair bit about their side when we went through the lineups, but looking at a young picture of Tedesco there, Luke Brooks and what's his face, Mitchell Moses hadn't hit the scene yet. But I'm just glad we're not Tigers fans. Everyone starts ranting and raving, and we are filming this. We're recording this hot on the heels, maybe an hour or two after we've heard that Nico Hines is essentially out for the season for 2024. Obviously, which hurts a lot, and his form's been by the wayside, and we've been terrible in the last 6 weeks or so. But we are not the Tigers, so thank goodness for that. Regardless of what happens this weekend, we are not the Tigers. Touch wood. They have not made the finals since probably 1908, and I do feel for their fans a bit. Like that side. As you said, they had a good side. They finished quite the way down the ladder in this one, and you could name so many representative sides out of all the players that they've lost. And just seeing Tedesco there, wow, that's...
There's been some terrible management there of players and purchasing and letting players go and over the last sort of 10 years. And, geez, I'll tell you what, these Tigers supporters, I've got a few mates that are like, but, they bleed the black and gold, and they... I don't know how they stick in there, but they're optimistic. They remain optimistic. So good on them. Good luck to them.
I know. I do know a few that are Tigers fans and feel similarly. And I suppose, bizarrely, and I think I mentioned it quite a while ago on one of our shows, when we're talking about teams that we hate. And I used to despise the Tigers, especially when the Balmain Tigers, whatever, the Western Suburbs Magpies, whatever. When they became the West Tigers, and no matter where they were, they just beat us every time. And they just team like Anthony LaFranchi and John Scandalis and all these guys that would just, no matter whether they could be sitting 16th, they'd rock up at Shark Park and carve us up, and we'd be sitting top 4. I'm like, what is going on?
Every time.
Yeah, every time. And they had the wood over us for a long time, and that's only recently changed after they've had a sustained period of being horrid, and we've had a sustained period of being a little less so. So I'm so glad that we aren't. I do feel for their fans. The 2019 final round match, where if we drew with them, both of us would have gone through the finals, and the Broncos would have been knocked out. Obviously you can't match fix, you can't collude, all that stuff, but that would have been an ideal way of going through. But I did feel for their fans there, because they came with so much hope. Robbie Farah was a late inclusion. I was thinking, here we go. We had a young Ronaldo Militalo who just went, I'm going to say, to ape SH1T in the first 20 minutes. He was like lassoing guys into the goal. I think he got penalised actually for what would have been a great try, where they claimed it was a 2-on-1 strip, but the other player had fallen off, and he got a great 1-on-1 strip and ran away 20 minutes to score. They got taken off him, but
was that the game where Ronaldo did his jaw at the end of it or something?
You're right. Yeah, I think you're right, actually. I think he did do it. It was the same game. It was Sunday afternoon. We had to win to make the finals. Paul Gallen kicked the field goal. But I think he did. I think he was looking so good, and then he did do his... Oh, no, you're right. That was... I do know what you're talking about. That was late 2021 up at Redcliffe, where we won 50 points to 20, and that was where Ronaldo did have a blinder there too. He gave Metcalf his first try, where he made a break. There was no fullback to beat. He just handed it off like kind of under sixes style, said, here you go, score a try. And it was funny, I was at work for that one, and I was listening on the radio, and the Triple M coverage. Dan Ganate, everyone's favourite mate, was just losing it, going, this guy is an unprofessional piece of poo. Who does he think he is? It's not the under sixes. Rah. And then I go home and watch the highlights, because I just couldn't see it. I was listening, going, oh, we scored the try, whatever. Go home and watch the Fox coverage. I can't remember if it was Warren Smith or Andrew Voss going, that's awesome. That's amazing. How good's that? Like the complete opposite.
The opposite.
Like you guys. Yeah. So
classic
anyway.
Dan.
Yeah, good thing we aren't Tigers. And I think it might have been Gordon Tallis or someone else still on the commentary team, just absolutely giving it to Ronaldo for being so unprofessional. And if he dropped the ball, that would have been horrid. And yeah, agreed. But anyway, he didn't. Metcalf got his first try. I think he got his second try that day too. I think Ronaldo got either 2 or 3, and then he broke his jaw, and that was the end of his season. So, unfortunately, but. And then that 2013 Shark side, I think you and I have chatted about 2013 already, in that we covered the Raiders home game earlier the season. But it was an exciting side. Our illustrious leader, David Balderman, may have mentioned offline that this side was stronger than our current side. I'd argue against in some ways. I'd say that our backline is better at the moment, but that forward pack, even without Gallen, was pretty good. So yeah, it was
I
a fun
think
side.
maybe our if only we'd start using our backline this year would be a good thing. But that was a strong side. But I think we're headed in a good direction where we are now. Touchwood, hopefully Nico's injury is not too serious. And but that was a good year, 2013. I was surprised by that. I know 2014 wasn't a great year, which was a shame. But we were building, and we went on not too far after this to win a comp. So
yeah, that's it. And in hindsight, it's a wonderful thing. It was the skeleton of the, I suppose, what eventually became the 2016 side. So we had some key ins there. Fifita came in, Heinington came in. Even players like Fecky had made his debut. This was Fecky's. Let's have a look. It was early days of his career. I think it was only his let's have a look. It was his 10th match. Yeah, 10th or 11th match in first grade. So, early days for him.
The foundations were being laid, though.
Yeah, they were. Obviously, Stewie Mills and others would go by the wayside. Unfortunately, John O'Wright, Nathan Stapleton will also move on. Todd Carney, Jeff Robson as well. But they kept the wheel turning until that team came together. And 2013 started under the shadow of Asada. It continued throughout, as they made mention of the salary cap penalty being handed to us. We were just in the media a lot for the wrong reasons. And I remember there was a feeling of kind of impending doom around the club, but the team itself was performing well on the field. I'll have a look at the final fallout there, but we obviously won 36-22 on this one with tries to double to Fifita, Wade Graham, Nathan Stapleton, Luke Lewis, Jason Bakuya. The tries, Todd Carney, 6 from 6, trusty right boot, whilst the Tigers, Tim Simona 2, Tedesco, Bodine Thompson the tries, Benji Marshall 3 from 4. We'd go on to finish 5th, so we had a few losses late-ish in that season that ruled us out of the top 4, and eventually we were bundled out week 2 of the finals. Todd Carney was out injured, and we lost to Manly. We had a possibility of equalising late on, and here's a bit of trivia for you. Do you remember who gave away the penalty that disallowed? I think it would have been a Paul Gallen try in that one.
No,
he played the ball, and then inexplicably, I don't know what he was thinking, tackled the marker, held the marker. It was so blatant. And
it wasn't Pomeroy, was it?
No, it was a player. It gets a lot of mentions on this podcast in a positive light. A lot of people have even been talking about bringing him back to the club in a coaching capacity. It was number 9, John Morris.
Bomber.
And I remember Gallen gave him the biggest spray, because I think it went one off the ruck. We went short side. Gallen went in and scored. And I don't know if the defender would have had a look at him or not, but it just made no sense. Morris had played the ball and did just tackled the guy after. I can't remember who the Manly defender was off the ball.
Brain fart.
And the referee, and 2013 was the first year they did we'll send it up as a try or a no try. And I remember I was watching it. I had to work and couldn't make it, and a whole stack of other things going on. So I'm watching it, and I think it was in Tamworth, actually, bizarrely, for a work thing. And try. The referee, all the Sharks fans in the stadium are celebrating, and the referee sends up no try, and we're like, "What are you talking about? Where's the obstruction? What do you mean?" And then, right at the play of the ball, Morris is just giving away a penalty, and then I think Manly went back downfield and scored and sealed it. But that was the year.
They went on and won the comp, didn't they? Manly.
Close. They lost to the Roosters in the grand final, but Daly Cherry Evans won the Clive Churchill that day. So anyway, we showed a bit of on-field form despite all the off-field kind of chat about Asada and all that stuff. And then that was kind of deferred until the 2014 season when the wheels well and truly fell off, understandably so with all that stuff. But anyway, we finished 5th, 14 wins, 10 losses, while the Tigers finished 15th with just 5 wins and 19 losses, which is just crazy looking at that side. Benji Marshall would depart to rugby union. Robbie Farah hung around a bit longer. But I remember too with Mick Potter coming into the side, there was also, as the team coach, a fair bit of talk about how the Tigers were turning the corner after they'd made the finals in 2012. They'd missed out in 2013, I think, and then it all started going downhill from there because I think they were pre-season premiership favourites in 2012 with essentially that side. So yeah. Anyway, that was was what it was. So, any final closing comments or memories from the that era? I suppose I'll just have a quick look and see if there's anything else in my notes while you're chatting.
I just remember this being pretty positive for what we've been through. We'd come pretty far, and look, who would have thought 3 years on we were going to actually walk away with the title? So amazing, and so much happened in between this game and 2016 in regards to player movement and sackings and all that sort of thing, and it was just unbelievable to get that win in 2016 after all this unfolded a few years earlier.
Yeah, so it puts it in perspective because I'd say 2013, with the side that we had, I think we were excited, but we knew that we weren't going to win the comp. In 2014, I think I went into that season going, okay, we can maybe match or go a little better, and we definitely didn't. And then 2015 and 2016, how quick that just turned around again and flipped. And I suppose we're talking about 2010 last week, and Roosters were wooden spooners in 2009 and flipped it and made the grand final the following year. So it shows you how quick things can change. And hopefully, if you're watching this in 2024, after we've just lost to the Titans, and we've just lost to the Dolphins, we've lost to some other poor teams. Who else will be losing there too? The Bulldogs. Hopefully, this gives you a bit of solace that things can change and change quickly. So hopefully the 2024 side does similar. But anyway, if you were there that night, if you had a unique vantage point of the Fifita 60-meter run and lawnmower, or even his second try where he just like cannonballed to the line, hit and spun and scored under the post, somewhat similarly to how he would a few years later, let us know. Hit the like and subscribe button. And if you've got any requests for next week, we are playing the bye. So no, we played the bye plenty of times in our history. I don't know if we've got any classic matches there, but the following week, whoever we're playing there, I must admit, I'm showing my lack of research this week. Have a look, see if there's a particular match that tickles your fancy that from the venue that we're playing at, and we'll see what we can do in that regard. Anyway, in the meantime, we'll say up Cronulla, and we'll catch you for a Tuesday show, which is sure to be explosive with everything else that's going on in the current world that is the Cronulla Sharks circus. In the meantime, up. Catch you soon.
Up.
See ya. Catch you, mate.
See you, mate.